guys! So this time we are actually going to be covering Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Now if the name sounds familiar, she is actually the author of the Lunar Chronicles, which I have read a long time ago. I want to read them again because I thought they were fantastic, but I can't remember all the details, but that's not why we're here. Now is it? We are going to be covering Heartless. Now, this book I gave a 4.5 out of 5 on Goodreads just because it was an amazingly well-written book. Now, if you've read any Marissa Meyer books before, you will know that she has a really good way of taking old fairy tales and retelling them. And this one is a character that we don't know a whole lot about. This one actually covers the Queen of Hearts before she became the Queen of Hearts. When the story starts, we meet Lady Catherine Pinkerton of Turtle Rock Cove. Obviously she's a lady, it's her title. She is born to the Marquis and Marchioness, I can't say those words to save my life, Turtle Rock Cove. So obviously she's very high up there in society. But all she wants to do is bake. She's very good at it somehow. And she actually has an idea to open up one of the best bakeries in the Kingdom of Hearts. She wants to do it with her maid, who's also her friend. And most of the book is her wanting to do this. But there are a couple of things standing in her way. Let's talk about what I thought about the writing, and then we'll get into the review of the book. The writing for this book is very Marissa Meyer, but it's also a lot of the things you would hear from, you know, Alice in Wonderland, the retellings of Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass, any of those old books from Lewis Carroll. Marissa Meyer was able to take them and make them her own. So I was thoroughly fascinated by this book. I loved it. There was like this whole sense of suspense throughout the entire thing. I'll get into why. That really just kept me reading and reading and reading. And a lot of the book actually covers why the Queen of Hearts is the way she is. And of course, we all know her for the famous lines of, you know, off with her head, and, you know, why are the roses white? Paint them red. This explains it amazingly well. So, totally recommend this to anybody. I think, like, you're just gonna love it, especially the characters. Because, again, there's Catherine, and she's stuck, you know, between wanting to open her bakery and then wanting to do her duty. I will admit her mother's a little overbearing. I don't like her mother at all that much. Her dad's not much help because he's not exactly... he doesn't have a backbone. We meet the King of Hearts. And I will admit, the King of Hearts is pretty much as we've always seen this King of Hearts to be. You know, plump little guy around with the weird mustache thing going on. Happy as can be, so that character hasn't changed whatsoever. But we also meet this character named Jest. And he is a very interesting character, and I'll get into him a little bit more. There's also Mad Hatter, the March Hare, we see Caterpillar, Cheshire's in here. So all of the usual Alice in Wonderland characters are in this book, which, again, makes things very relatable because we know these characters and we know what they're like. So you can picture voices in, well, I guess you can hear the voices in your head when they're talking. Now, into the synopsis of the book. So like I said, Catherine Pinkerton wants to open a bakery. Her maid is doing it with her. Here's the problem. She's somehow gotten the eye of the King of Hearts, who wants her to marry him. And she doesn't want to do that at all. She just wants to open the bakery. But in the course of everything, she meets the new court jester, Jest, and she falls in love. But not with the king, with Jest. It is, there's so much tension between Catherine and Jest. It drove me nuts. I was just flipping through the pages like, oh, when is anything going to happen? And it finally does. And a lot of it, another part of this book actually has to do with the creature, the Jabberwock, which we were mostly, or at least I was mostly really introduced to in the retelling, the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. But the Jabberwock shows up, and we figure out actually what the Jabberwock is. It's a very interesting scenario that what has happened with the Jabberwock. Yeah, it's, I don't really know how to put it without spoiling it. But, okay, we'll get to part of this. Alright. The thing with Jest is he's not exactly from the Kingdom of Hearts. He is from the Kingdom of Chess. And in the Kingdom of Chess, he's actually a rook. So he protects the queen and he does all this other stuff. Which is also true for, strangely, the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter is also from chess. I think the March Hare is, but I could be wrong. I can't remember. And so it's really interesting because Jest first came to Hearts because he had a mission that was supposed to stop the war in chess between the Red and the White Queen. Don't ask me why it's red. But yeah. So he works for the White Queen. And his mission was to find a way to stop the war between the Red and the White Queen. And somehow Catherine figures into all of it. I'm not spoiling it, but we watch as these two characters get to know each other better, get to know each other more, and they do eventually fall in love, and by doing that, Jess's mission is actually compromised. So he has to find a way to tweak it, and we get to a point in the book where they're actually all going back to chess. Everything's been figured out. But then they get to the Treacle Well, which is supposed to have these really magnificent powers. And there are 3 guardians of the Treacle Well. The animal forms that they take on is an owl, a fox, and a raccoon. So we have these 3 characters that guard this well that will grant wishes, that will let them into chess. But they also give this really disturbing future to Catherine and the party. It comes with a rhyme that explains pretty much what's happening. But it doesn't go as planned. Everything goes wrong. Catherine then turns into the Queen of Hearts that we know. And most of us hate her, but after reading this book, I can't hate the Queen of Hearts anymore. I mean, just, there is some tragedy in this book. And again, it will explain everything. Again, off of their head, paint the roses red. You will get it. And I really do believe if you have never liked the Queen of Hearts, after reading this book, you might not hate her as much as you did. Because I know I don't. But again, it was a very interesting perspective to take for this, you know, very old story. I'm now going to see if Kyle will read this book, because I think he would like it. But, again, if you have a chance to pick up this book, pick it up, give it a read, read any of her other books, because I'm going to reread those just because they were that darn good. But, just fantastic book. The cover itself is gorgeous, but what I really like is actually when you take the jacket cover off, the actual hard copy of the book is also stunningly gorgeous. I mean, crown on one side, jester hat on the other. Just, also, still, one strange thing. Still no answer to why is a raven like a writing desk? Still no answer. And, well, that's it for this review. I'm not sure what exactly my next review is going to be because we are going on a trip around Japan for 10 days, and I'm taking e-copies of The Paper Magician and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Watch my March TBR to figure out what my entire list is. I'll link it down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. So keep reading those books and burning through them like the dragons you are. Bye, guys.